Concerning some of the discussions in meetings of the Greater Fergus Falls Corporation. To be specific, numerous expensive projects are under consideration or in planning and design phases, while the council are attempting to deal with the loss of property tax revenue to our city from the closures of Otter Tail Power Plant, Kmart, Sunmart, Target, Herberger's. According to press reports, in the best scenario, the city would not compensate for the lost tax capacity until 2030 at the earliest. If this is an accurate estimation, how can you seriously be planning such expensive projects as a riverside amphitheater, a riverfront balcony, a splash pad? And by what logic does the city choose to take away downtown parking spots, which are vital to downtown businesses to provide parking for their patrons and employees? Are they to be forfeited for an open market restricted by inclement weather to usage for less than half a year? Or an amphitheater which will be even more susceptible to weather closures, or even vandalism such as we have at De Lagoon Park? My hope is that the council moves without caution, and my hopes are bolstered by the comments which I read quoting Councilman Hicks, who emphasized the need for a proper business plan to manage development and ensure it remains visible. Mr. Hicks' advice is wise and merits consideration by the council. We don't need a repeat of the enmity, the hostility, some of which still lingers, which roiled this city during the campaign to approve and fund the ice arena only a few years ago. Thank you. I would have a couple of questions. What is a splash pad? Does anyone know?
A splash pad is a water feature that is, someone help me out. It's
like a spray fountain.
It's like a spray fountain.
Oh, people can go in the fountain and splash around, is that it? Or?
Similar, it's on the ground, yes. It's
Okay.
gonna be similar.
And the second thing is, I know you have these meetings of the Greater Fergus Falls Corporation, I understand. Could you ask the Daily Journal or somebody in the media to announce when those meetings are going to be a few days in advance?
Sure.
Because there are some of us who'd like to come, but the only time we know what happened is that when we read about it in the paper the day after.
Sure, I believe they're the second, and Anthony can help me, they're the second Friday of the month at noon. Is that correct? It's Friday at noon. I believe it's the second, but I'll
Here?
make sure to get, no, they're at West Central Initiative Foundation, and they're open to the public, and the media is there.
Okay.
I'll confirm that, but I believe it's the second Friday of the month at noon.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for being here tonight. And with that, we'll just wait a couple minutes and we'll begin the council meeting. This one right here. Good evening, everyone. I'd ask that you would please rise, and we will recognize a moment of silence in honor of President George Herbert Walker Bush, followed by an invocation by Pastor Dwayne Smith of Abundant Life Assembly, and our Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we recognize you tonight. You said, Lord, if anyone lacks wisdom, he should ask of God, who gives abundantly and generously tonight. As we honor a man who served our country, I thank you for the people who serve this community. Father, as we pray for wisdom and favor, we also pray for favor upon our community tonight as we seek your face and your hand. With 500 guests coming this weekend to our community from California, Texas, and Georgia, Kentucky, and Illinois, we ask for traveling mercies for them. We also ask that their eyes be open to the goodness of Fergus Falls. We pray for economic development, but we pray for spiritual development. We pray for kindness development. Lord, may we be a gentle people tonight. It starts here, And I thank you for your wisdom. And you said that wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in your name, there you should be. We acknowledge you tonight. Guide us in everything we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. It's Monday, December 3rd, 5:30, 2018. I will call this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Here. 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 Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. We have a quorum. First item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the agenda, and I will call on our city administrator, Andrew Brumseth, for any additions or corrections.
Yeah, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. We do have one addition tonight under new business, and that's to accept a $5,000 donation from West Central Initiative and approving a budget adjustment to Park and Rec. And there's a memo on your desks this evening related to that item.
Thank you, Andrew. With that, I would entertain a motion to accept the amended agenda. So moved. Thank you, Anthony. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. There are no public hearings this evening, and there are no bids to award. There are no petitions or communications. There's a copy of the consent agenda in your packet. Lynn is also putting a copy up on the board for the audience. If anyone has any individual items they would like to discuss independently, we will entertain that now. If not, just one mention for full disclosure. My wife and I's license for our business is on here, so obviously I go through the exact same process that any other business in town does, and I won't be voting on that, but just for full disclosure, that's in there. Is there any one?
I'll offer it, Your Honor.
Thank you, Justin. Resolution.
Second that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Roll call, please.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Arneson.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Effort.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Under ordinance and resolutions, we have a first reading of ordinance 76, 7th series, home occupations. And do we have any comments from the city attorney? Otherwise, we'll need someone to introduce that ordinance.
I don't have any comments.
No comments? Would someone like to introduce that ordinance?
I would like to, Your Honor.
Thank you, Justin. We also have a second reading this evening of ordinance 75, 7th series, the vacation of Deerfoot Lane, and this has been to committee. It's been before the council. If there's any discussion, we'll do that now. Otherwise, roll call, please.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Arneson.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Effort.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. That ordinance, I'm sorry, that ordinance is approved. Item number 3 is a resolution certifying the abatement costs for 1220 South Mill Street, and I will call on our finance director, Bill Sonmore.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, we had one more certification that came up. As you know, we did that at our second meeting in November, all our other certifications. This was an arrangement that was the city had arrived at with this property owner, that we were authorized to do the cleanup and the abatement. Then they also authorized that we could get that certified on the taxes right away this year. Otherwise, if we were to just go through our normal process, it would be a year from now before we'd certify it. So kind of helps us get the cash in the door a little sooner. So having that certified to the 2019 property taxes to be collected with that. We do still apply our late fee because, you know, we're not going to give free financing. So the late fee does apply like anyone else that doesn't pay their bill. So that's on there as well.
Are there any questions for Bill? If not, I would entertain a resolution.
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Darren. Roll call, please.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Arneson.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Effort.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Item number 4 is the continuing a discussion that we had 2 weeks ago relating to an open forum request. We also discussed it at committee. I think the official motion was made to not amend the ordinance. However, we had discussion. I think there was clearly kind of two different, more than one opinion. So I just think that it's appropriate tonight that we continue that discussion relating to the number of dogs and cats allowed. Natalie is here if anyone has any questions. She was the one with the original petition, the open forum request. And Al Hybe, sorry. Al Hybe, our animal control officer, is also here. So I guess I just open the floor to the council, what direction currently. Rolf, would you just want to read what the ordinance currently reads?
Basically, the ordinance allows for no more than 3 dogs or 3 cats or more than a combination of 4 dogs and cats. So 3 of each or a combination of the 2 up to 4, if that makes sense.
And so our options, I guess, are to obviously keep it the same. One thing that some people discussed, I think it was somewhere over that way, up in the number to 6, and I think Darren suggested that we consider removing the or more than a combination of 4 in any one dwelling unit, which would basically make it 3 and 3. Is that accurate? What you kind of suggested? So
Strike the last half of that or whatever on that line.
I guess right now we don't have a motion on the floor. If someone would like to make one, continue the discussion. However you guys want to go about it. Tom.
I guess I'd be curious to hear from Al if we could. Al, are you okay telling us what your thoughts are on how you feel your job would be affected by the ordinance going either way?
What's the change in the ordinance at this point you were suggesting?
Maybe, Your Honor, should I make my motion again, but still, so we can have discussion, or?
Yeah, so, yeah, we don't have a motion on the floor right now. I guess the discussion is that either leave the ordinance as is, which caps it at 4, 3, and no more than 3 of one. And the other item being discussed would be to strike the second half of that, which would allow 3 and 3 up to 6, if we struck it. I think those are the two things that are being discussed, but we
Okay.
don't have a motion on the floor at the council meeting at the moment. So, would you like to address if the number of dogs and cats was increased from the current maximum of 4?
Well,
Right. How would you see that play out?
at this point, we raised it once here 5 years ago, I believe, Ralph, somewhere in that area. It hasn't been much of a problem, but at this point, I'd like to see it the same. We run into a lot of problems. We can't regulate in apartment complexes. And then you get flea infestation and so on. And I know that goes with the property owners and stuff, and people don't follow rules. But for us out there working, it really gets hard to control that. And I think before we would do anything on that, I think we would need to back up and a few of us get together, maybe with Ralph, and talk about some other things that we might change before we would change that. That would pertain to the administration fee and things like that.
So maybe do a more comprehensive look at that particular.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any questions of?
Then I'll make a motion with that. I'll take that recommendation. I think we table this until that discussion can take place, and then we'll bring it back once they come up with a recommendation.
Postpone this discussion until.
Right.
I'll second that, Your Honor. I think it's some more review would be warranted if Al feels that way.
Just discuss.
So we're going to postpone this discussion until.
And on that discussion, have somebody from the council in that discussion. Whichever one.
Woof, woof, did you say?
Any, so everyone clear on the motion to postpone this discussion until we have an opportunity to discuss further revisions to the ordinance? Any other discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, that motion carries. Thank you, Al.
Thanks,
Okay,
Al.
thank you.
Thanks.
Why don't you, Your Honor, members, why don't you appoint a council member right now, if you don't mind? So then that group can start meeting sooner than
I'll do it because I asked to be tabled. I'll do it.
All right.
Or postpone, is that the correct terminology? You're lucky day, Tom.
I was gonna nominate you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I was gonna nominate you too.
All right. Justin, thank you, Justin. Next item is a resolution of support for the Small Business Revolution Contest, and I'll call on Chamber of Commerce Director Lisa Workman.
Good evening, Your Honor, and thank you very much to City Council members, members of the city staff, and of course residents of Fergus Falls. I'm Lisa Workman. I'm the president of the Fergus Falls Area Chamber of Commerce, 202 South Court Street. Fergus Falls has the opportunity to win a $500,000 makeover for our small businesses, and we need the community support to make it a reality. More than 12,000 small towns nationwide were nominated for the TV show Main Street Small Business Revolution. 20 towns were selected as season 4 finalists, and Fergus Falls made the list. Minnesota-based Deluxe Corporation is on a mission to revitalize small towns and put Main Street back on the map, one small business at a time. Fergus Falls could be next. But we need your support, and we need you to share your Fergus Falls pride. You know, wasn't it wonderful to see hundreds of people filling the streets of downtown for the Over the River Holiday Festival? Can you imagine if every Saturday was that busy? Together we can make it happen, and we need everyone to rally, from government officials, city staff, and elected city council members, to business owners and their employees, retirees, students, every resident of Fergus Falls. We need you to tell Deluxe Corporation why we need the small business revolution. We are asking you to share your pictures of your favorite parts of Fergus Falls on social media and use the hashtag #MyFergusFalls and tag Small Business Revolution. You know, we've had more than 100 new businesses open in Fergus Falls in the last 5 years, but unfortunately some of our favorites closed. We don't want to lose any more of our small businesses, and we need the small business revolution in Fergus Falls. Our locally owned shops anchor Lincoln Avenue, and they're the cornerstone of our downtown. Our small businesses, the owners create jobs, and they're very dedicated to their employees and their families. Our small business owners have the energy and passion to do what they do, and they're committed to the Fergus Falls economy. And as a representative of the Fergus Falls small businesses, I humbly ask for your support of the small business revolution. Thank you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions, Lisa? I just want to reiterate those numbers. You had 12,000 nominations, top 20 Fergus Falls.
Correct. They received over 12,000 nominations nationwide, and Fergus Falls was selected as the only town in Minnesota in the top 20 of those towns of those that need a small business revolution. They'll announce a winner a week from tomorrow, or at least the top 10. We'll get down to the top 10 on December 11th.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions of Lisa? If not, we would entertain a resolution of support for the program, for the job Lisa's on.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Brent?
I would second it, Your Honor.
Thank you, Jay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 That resolution is approved. Thank you to Lisa and to everyone who's been a part of that effort.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a presentation of claims. Tonight we have claims in the amount of $1,695,267.87. And if there's any questions, I would direct them to our city finance director. If not, is there a resolution to approve those?
Pay the bills.
Thank you, Scott.
Pam.
That's a second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yep.
Yes.
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 That resolution is approved. We're going to move on to item number L, which is old and unfinished business. We're going to wait for the public meeting regarding the 2019 budget and levy till 6 p.m. by law. So that's why we're going out. If anyone's here to address that, that's why we're going out of order. Under old and unfinished business, we have the November 19th, 2018 closed meeting update, and I'm wondering if we have the motion Well, I guess we'd be looking for a motion accepting the summary of the city administrator's performance evaluation and directing the HR director to insert the evaluation to Andrew Bremseth's employment file. So I guess that's still technically a closed item, correct? So moved. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Scott. Any discussion on that? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries as well. Let's go to new business, and the item before us is the Inga M. Johnson Endowment Fund donation from West Central Initiative, and the action looking forward would be to accept the $5,000 donation from the West Central Initiative and to approve the budget adjustment to the Parks and Recs Department. Bill, did you have any comments?
You pretty much summed it up. They do this on an annual basis, so very generous. Been able to do several things throughout the years.
And we do that by resolution, I believe, correct? Any questions or comments? If not, would someone like to offer that resolution?
I will offer.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Darren. How about a really long roll call, 13-minute roll call?
Spell everybody's name.
Roll call, please.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Arneson.
Yes.
Speedall. Hicks.
Yes.
Effort.
Yes. Jeopardy theme song.
Your Honor.
Yes.
No.
That resolution is approved. Yes, Anthony?
I think one thing that we should do, and obviously Lisa Workman brought it up, but it seems we need 13 minutes,
Certainly.
12 now maybe. But I think we should recognize, the people that helped put together Saturday. And obviously the Fergus Falls Downtown, Council did a lot of the over kind of reaching kind of organization, but there was a lot of businesses that and individuals that put a lot of work into that. None less than Natalia, the young lady that came and presented to us earlier. So I think as a city we should be grateful for what she did. But as soon as you've got kind of a few minutes, I could read them out.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to read them out, but just ask that they got recognized. But obviously, the city of Fergus Falls did a lot. Lake Region Healthcare did a lot. LB Homes, Security State Bank, Quality Toyota, Fergus Falls Chamber of Commerce, CHS, Remax, Union Pizza, AA Catering, and Victor Lundin's were all event sponsors. And then we had a lot of major contributors, as Jake Crone, Clara Beck. I maybe read the things that they contributed to. Year of Play, the Cadets Gallery, Springboard for the Arts, Centre for the Arts, A Place to Belong, City Staff, Leighton Broadcasting, Cooper's Office Supply, Fergus Falls Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Riverfront Council, Greater Fergus Falls Corporation, the Fergus Falls Fire Department, Fergus Falls Police Department, the Computer Hero, Bob and Mary Warner, Salvation Army, Children's Corner, Church of Latter-day Saints, Cornerstone Church, Pemberton Law Office, Petal Fergus Falls, Affinity Plus, Mark Erickson, Dale and Jody Hansen. And then, they equally did organize for the trees. And I know that Downtown Riverfront Council cut those trees and lit them. And that was a nice touch to downtown as well, replacing the trees that got taken down. Visit Fergus Falls, A Place to Belong, A Daily Journal, Remax, Brent and April Thompson, Theory Toll Management, Cornerstone Cabinets, Summerfest, Keller Williams, Bob and Mary Warner, Century 21, Deb Banter, Christine House, Dawn & Co., Stumbinos, Little Black Ledger, Family Hair Clinic, Leighton Broadcasting, and Fergus Falls Chamber of Commerce again. So there was a lot of people that did a lot of things behind the scenes that made Saturday happen. And I think, the fireworks were, I had a lot of positive comments about the fireworks that they could be seen from all over town. So I think it shows, as Lisa said, if the community comes together, things can get accomplished.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anthony. And I just would reiterate what a great day in Fergus Falls for our community, and I know that two groups just to emphasize again, and that would be city staff, Fire Chief Ryan Muckow, Chief of Police Kyle Bergeron, and Guy Taylor, and all of their staff. I mean, they went above and beyond, and they did a great job in putting on that event. And then the Downtown Riverfront Council, as you mentioned, Steve Erickson, Natalia Bowman, Sue Wilkinson, and the entire, that wouldn't happen without the efforts of them. And I think a lot of people, it's easy to take those events for granted, and we really want to say thank you to those, put a lot of time in, and we all had a lot of fun, but they put a lot of time in, so we just want to say thank you. Thanks for what you do for the community. And with that, I think I would call on, she doesn't know I'm going to call on her, but I am going to call on her, Jean Bowman, to come up and talk about the Minnesota Monthly Best Town in Minnesota, Best Minnesota Town that we're going to be
Thank you, Mayor. The other thing I was thinking I should let you know, the gentleman who opened in prayer today alluded to the 500 people who will be in town today, this weekend. And what that event is there's a prophet from Ethiopia. His name is, I'm going to say this wrong, but it's Surafel Demisi, and he will be speaking all day Saturday and all day Sunday at the high school. And they're expecting, this is his first trip to the United States, and he is out east, I think, right now, and he'll be in Fergus Falls this weekend for those 2 days. So we're working with the sponsoring church, with our police department, with our hotels to be sure that we've got traffic, patterns all set and all of that. So you'll see people you don't know in town and you wonder what they're here for, and that's that. To the best Minnesota towns, there weren't 12,000 nominees, but there is just the Minnesota communities. I believe there were 24 nominees, and we put that in, I want to say, the end of August, and it was a really a joint effort of the Chamber and the EIC and I. We put our heads together and came up with, I think it was an 8-page essay we had to submit, and it was narrowed down to 10, and then we got the voting all out on social media where we had to get people to vote for our community, and we were in the top 5. And so the winning town is going to be announced Wednesday night at Aria in downtown Minneapolis. We have to be there to find out. And thanks to Otter Tail Coaches, they're providing a bus for no charge. And we've got a bus full of people going down to hear firsthand if we're the winners. And we are up against White Bear Lake, Roseville, Eden Prairie, and Northfield. So we're the only community in greater Minnesota. So if that means anything, I think we're winners right off the bat. But we'll find out. The announcement will be made about 7:30. And of course, we'll be all over social media with My Best MN is how they're promoting that. So we thank everybody who's going down to celebrate with us, and hopefully we'll come back with some additional good news.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
One other thing that just want to touch on that's happening this week. So it's a busy week in Fergus. Chuck Marone from Strong Towns is going to be in Fergus Falls. Steve, would you mind coming up to the? And Strong Towns is it's an event. It's open to the public. There is a dinner involved, so there is a charge of $20. All city staff, city council members, committee members are encouraged to attend by the city. But Steve, why don't you just tell us a little bit about the Strong
Being that
Towns?
this is a total surprise that I was going to say something, I'm going to kind of ramble a little bit like I normally do. Chuck Marone is an international speaker. He's actually from Brainerd, but he speaks all over the country and internationally on how to make communities strong. And it has particular relevance to Fergus for a couple different reasons. Some of the things he talks about is the cost of maintaining infrastructure as municipalities get older and they expand, the maintenance costs become so high that pretty soon they can't afford it. So this is something that Fergus needs to look at, I think. So it's a really good subject to hear about that. It's also about how do you keep your community strong. And Fergus is looking at the issue of affordable housing. How do we bring the costs down? One of the concepts is maybe there should be redevelopment areas closer in where the infrastructure is already there, and maybe some different ways of doing things. So it's a real beneficial program. I think it's been going since 2008. He is a civil engineer and a planner by trade, and he's very well respected. We feel very fortunate to be able to get him and also to have him at an affordable price. So he's going to be here speaking. There's going to be 2 sessions, and really everybody's welcome to either one. The first one's a little bit more detailed for those that are, I would say, city staff, city employees, council members, and so forth. It'll be more specific types of things that you might be facing. The second, and that's about a half-hour discussion. Then we're going to break for dinner, and I'd never heard of this before until I came to Fergus, and I actually heard about it about 2 months ago. Dinner, to me, is not a walking taco, but that's what we're serving. And a walking taco is actually a taco in a bag. So that's going to be included. And so the first session starts at 4:45, starts at 4:30, 4:45 he talks until a little after 5, and then there's a break from 5:30, or from 5 to 5:30 for dinner, and then it goes from 5:30 to 7 on his, what I'm gonna call it is a fireside chat, and then he'll.
Curbside.
Curbside chat, sorry.
You're getting FDR's the fireside.
Anyway, it should be a great presentation. He'll take some more questions at the end. Downtown Council has been doing a fundraiser, which is a raffle, and after he's done, we'll announce the winners of that. So you don't have to stay for that if you don't want to, but if you do want to buy a ticket, you can. And for the men here, the top prize is a 3/4 carat diamond bracelet, just in time for Christmas. And for the ladies, it is a $1,200 gun from 30-06, I guess is what it is. And there's some other things. So anyway.
Delay for deer hunting season.
Yeah, right, just after. So anyway, it's going to be a great event. I would really like everybody to come to it, whether you're general public and you want to know about these things, or whether you are more involved in it as everybody up here is. I think it's going to be a great event, and we're very fortunate to get this. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks to the Downtown Council for putting it on. If anyone could fill that time from, I knew you could do it.
I'm gonna go start bringing the PowerPoint up.
Perfect. You've got less than a minute. That was perfect. Bill, you're good to go.
We're good to go, okay. And as your finance director, I will be there on Thursday night, excited to hear what Strong Towns is about, because of course, as we do budgets and plan for the future, we want to plan for the long term, and give credit to you as a council. I think you've had a focus of that over the years, and that's great that we continue that. And the Tax Levy Committee this year certainly looking at that too from a long-term perspective. So we're here tonight to go over the 2019 budget. This is what we've worked on now for many, many months. Started actually, last May. We began that budget process. Culminates here tonight with a public meeting. We'll allow the public to speak if they have comments. So I'll go through this and we'll give time if the public wants to speak. By the end of the month, we need to have our certified levy to Otter Tail County. So that's kind of the deadline goal for us, is getting that to Otter Tail County by the end of the month. So the assumptions have not changed from what we put in this summer. So you can see our wages and health in there at 2.8 and 5.2%. Electric, city, natural gas, all at 3. Liability insurance at 4. Property insurance at 3. Auto insurance at 2, and workers' comp at 7%. Those insurances, we get those estimates from the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust. The others, we contact, Otter Tail Power, Great Plains, and then we also had settled contracts, so we knew where we were going with our wages and benefits. So our proposed revenues at $47,947,975. Proposed expenditures $46,439,066. That's one of the numbers I'm going to ask for your approval, is that expenditure budget of the 46+ million. the proposed tax levy of $6,367,186. That is not changed since what was presented to you in September. Tax capacity rate. Our current rate is 57.817. With this levy and with changes in the values in town, that would move to 58.541, or a 1.25% change. I'm going to talk about a couple things on this slide because the revenues and the expenditures did change since what was presented to you in September. Now, just jotting a few notes of things we changed. Parking fees, we did increase those in our fee schedule, so I reflected that in these new numbers. Police state aid, what we got this year since September is actually about $7,500 higher. We can look towards that again, so I put that in the budget, a little extra revenue there. We had some TIF revenue in there from decertifications that was in the budget. We already received that back from the county, so I can't budget for that for next year. So I had to pull 30-some thousand out for that. Fire state aid. This is a wash of a change, but I increased revenues and increased expenses by $95,000. Net effect zero, but from an accounting treatment, I wanted to show that at gross. Historically, that's always netted out because we just send that over to the fire department for their retirement plan, and that's how that works. We get it from the state, and we have to immediately turn around and get that over to the fire department, but I want to show that at gross, and I think that's a better picture for us. Arena, I did tweak down our community arena fees just a little over $1,000 because the budget went down a little bit, and those arena fees are based on a percentage of that budget. So that was just a little housekeeping there. All that being said, I had a net reduction that I needed of $6,509 to keep the levy because we couldn't go up, so I needed to cut the budget a little bit. So we went to our IT area and a little bit in public works to bring that down, to keep that levy the same. I also implemented in the enterprise funds, I tweaked those revenues and expenses there from that long utility rate study that I gave you. So our numbers were a little bit better now, so I thought we might as well bring them in here. So this budget matches that enterprise fund study that we did. So those are the changes there. Now, this tax capacity rate going up 1.25%, that looks pretty good. If your market value did not change on your home, then your city line of your tax bill, as you know, you have city, county, school, and HRA. The city line would only go up 1.25 theoretically. Now I say that if nothing else changes. So many things change on your property tax statement each year. So I did a little sampling of after those truth and taxation notices came out in preparation of this meeting to see, is there any rhyme or reason? Can I see an average? We're increasing our levy 6.5%. The impact to the tax rate is 1.25. Is there anything I could glean from that? There was not. They were all over the board. We looked at some that were much higher than 6.25. There were some 6.5, some that are a little bit lower, some that their city taxes didn't change at all because maybe the market value on that home actually went down a little bit. But for the most part, across the board in the city, market values did go up. And I learned that from discussions with our county assessors. So you may hear some discussion about that throughout the community. But there was no clear-cut average that I could give you. So what we cover in this meeting, because we cover this as a whole, we don't go into individual tax bills at this meeting, but this is what our proposed levy is, and we have to show what's the impact on the tax rate. So that's kind of in summary what's before you tonight. I wanted to go into a little more detail on this slide because this had some of those changes since the last time. Many of these slides now that we'll see didn't change since September. So total revenues and expenditures just broken down by fund type. General fund, those changes I talked about are in there. Special revenue, I don't think we changed those at all. So the general fund, and for you and for the public watching, that's our general operating fund of the city. The majority of the business goes on in that general fund. Your police, your fire, park and rec, streets, administration, all that falls within the general fund. Special revenue, a couple of our major ones are the public library and the Port Authority are under that special revenue number. Debt service, that's where we make our bond payments. We have debt of the city and that's where we make those payments through. Capital projects, that's where we build things. So when you do a building, when you do some streets, redevelop an area, that shows up under capital projects. Enterprise funds, those are run like a for-profit business. That's the liquor store, sewer, water, stormwater, the refuse fund. An internal service is a business within the city where that equipment is rented out to the various departments of the city. They pay that to that equipment fund, so we have money to buy that new road grader and snowplow trucks, every piece of equipment in our fleet. So here's just a pie chart breaking down that revenue. You can see charges and sales are a big part of where the city gets our money, as well as intergovernmental at 26%. We are pretty dependent on local government aid. It is important to the city of Fergus Falls. That's in that 26% number. Property tax is up there 13%. So you can see out of everything we do in the city, that property tax levy makes up 13% of the revenue. Where do we spend that money? So here's the $46 million budget that we will ask you to approve. Certainly one of the largest areas on capital outlay. If you build projects, redevelop things, that shows up in here in the project budget. But wages, benefits, health insurance, those you can see are at, what's that, 27% there. Big part of the city. We're a service-driven organization, so we're people using equipment to provide service to the residents. So our current levy at $5,978,541 going to $6,367,186, or that change of $388,645 or 6.5%. So just want to be very clear about that. It's also in state law that we really show that very clearly for the residents. How the property tax system works. You start with Otter Tail County Assessor determining the market value of all the properties in town. You take that times the state class rates that apply to those properties, comes up with a tax capacity. Then that's the value that that piece of property is taxed upon. The next line down, then, the city, what we're doing tonight, we set a property tax levy. And that levy then is divided by that tax capacity that we did on the first line above to come up with a tax rate. Then you take that tax rate times the individual property owner's tax capacity to come up with your tax bill. This is just a chart showing where we've been, 16, 17, 18, and where we're looking at going in 19. So showing that levy and then showing the change in the tax rate as well. This just kind of breaks that tax rate down between the different jurisdictions on the bottom part. And then also something different this year. You can see we have what we did in 2018 and then annexation, Woodland Heights 2018, and then how that's changing for 2019 and the annexation of Woodland Heights in 2019. So if you are a resident of the Woodland Heights area, your city tax line looks like it's going up a lot. And it is. It's going up more than 100% because of the phase-in of the property tax. For the first time, certainly since I've been here with annexations, we phased that in over 6 years. So in 2018 was the first year. You took the whole city tax rate of the 57.818, and the Woodland Heights area paid 1/6 of that tax rate. This year, they pay 2/6 or 1/3. So that's that 19.514 is about 1/3 of the 58.541. So that's one explanation of why in that area you're going to see a larger increase. Now actually in 2018, I believe the taxes probably went down compared to the township for 1 year. So township here, down, and then starting to come back up. So we kind of pulled that apart. Looking at a $125,000 home and a $500,000 business, you can see kind of the changes there. And then the trends for all the rates together. So when you add them up, total tax rate, going from 123.263 to 123.814. LGA, we'd just like to show you kind of where we've been. And you'll see LGA has been pretty stable over the years. We're not seeing much for increases. So when you don't see those increases, and we have inflationary increase on the expense side, that pushes more of it to the levy. So that causes us to want to, keep beating that drum at the legislature, why Fergus Falls needs LGA and why it's important, and that we can keep up, at least with inflationary increases, but hopefully even better on that. So here's some of the major changes in the general fund revenue. So that first fund we looked at, taxes going up 310, 489. Now the LGA, I put this on here, it's very minimal, but that's the important part of it, that it is minimal, and we'd like to see that higher. Investment earnings, we dropped that down a little bit. We're in an interest rate rising environment. So our portfolio kind of works in the inverse. When interest rates are going up, we see some decreases in fair market value. Now, we typically hold those investments to maturity. So, we're not realizing those losses, but we do mark them on our books to market. But better interest rates will be better for us in the long term, of course. And then we're using some of the cash balance within the general fund to purchase a fire truck is in the plan, and financing a part of that as well, the $325,000. Here's the major expense areas for the general fund. Wages and benefits and health insurance, like I said. General government buildings, we're bringing that back up to $75,000 from $50,000. That takes care of our property tax supported buildings. Street improvements. This is one thing you as a council were passionate about, getting some more money in there, and I applaud you for that. That is great. I think that would go right along with what we'll hear in strong towns as far as planning to maintain the infrastructure we have. So that's the $52,000, bringing more funding into that street area. Parking lot and trail maintenance, we put $35,000 in for parking lots, $10,000 in for trails. Again, we have to take care of what we have, so getting that money in the budget is a good thing. EIC. That's changed to Greater Fergus Falls. Not the organization. I totally said that wrong. We're not changing from that. With Greater Fergus Falls starting, we've decreased our funding to the EIC. Actually, that $50,000 now is in the budget, moved over to the Port Authority. We'll see that on the Port Authority side. And there's the replacement of engine number 2 that matched the revenue on that previous slide. General government, we did talk about that $75,000. We hired our new planner who is sitting here at our table. That's great. There's no election in 2019, so those expenses went down. We have the bicycle master plan in there for $15,000 because we were the recipient of a grant for $7,500, so we put $7,500 in for matching funds for that. Public safety, we hired a new police officer that started in 2018, so we've completely, of course, funded that in 2019. There's the fire department. We've talked again about that fire truck purchase. And you'd look at the first payment starting a year later then. We buy it in 19. The first payment then would start on that $325,000 equipment note in 2020. Streets and highways, here's overlays, seal coats. There's that $52,000 increase between the two of them, or the 20% we talked about. Parking lot improvements we touched on as well. Park and Rec, not an increase, but just a good reminder to let you know we are keeping $25,000 in for the lifeguards at Pebble Beach. There's the $10,000 for trail maintenance funds, $5,000 for fireworks. We had that in 18, but maintaining that in 19. The golf course, having $26,000 in to make those payments on the equipment currently that we own, that we have a few payments left on that. And then $45,000 for some building improvements out there is included in the budget. Things like siding need to be done on the clubhouse. This always gets to be kind of a hot topic here and there throughout the year, but a good reminder for you, the city of Fergus Falls does own that golf course. It is a public golf course, so we own and insure all those buildings. We have that agreement that you just adopted tonight where the nonprofit group manages the course for us, but the city of Fergus Falls does own that course. The chiller for the arena should be nearing completion, which should be able to allow for some expanded ice time. And forestry, again, we are maintaining the tree trimming and dealing with our diseased tree. That certainly stayed in there. The Port Authority, you can see our revenues and expenses compared to last year. Property tax levy, $125,000. So that is up from our $75,000 levy in 2018. Again, we moved from the EIC over to the Port Authority, that levy there. And then expenditures are broke down between the operations of the port and then the CBHH, which is the Community Behavioral Health Hospital. It's owned by the city of Fergus Falls, leased to the state of Minnesota. They pay us rent to take care of the building as well as the operations of it. The city is made, or the Port Authority is made whole through that organization, so it's not city funds that go into that. The state, we reconcile every year with them, and they settle up with us and make us whole. Public Library, $887,414 is the budget. Looking at major sources there. So, major property tax support for the library. We do get regional library aid that comes through the county at $89,840. We're looking at hiring that youth librarian, half-time I believe it is. And then we brought some utilities back because we're moving back into the new building now. We cut them last year as we went into the temporary space, knowing we'd have to bring those back. Also, Viking Library does several services that don't reflect in our actual operations here. They do them, they pay for that, but we receive the service for that. And I know we have a memo from you somewhere that helped me to digest that, but that's kind of as much as I'm remembering off the top of my head. But Aaron's here, so. Some of our major capital projects, Lincoln Avenue Mill and Overlay we're looking at next year. Downtown Riverfront Development, we've talked about that. Down here, Mount Faith area reconstruction, that's where the appraisals we just talked about at a recent meeting. So we'll be looking at that. The dairy property redevelopment. And then RTC Phase 2 deconstruction, we were awarded those funds through the state legislature of $3.5 million, so looking at moving forward to Phase 2. And then the Lake Alice parking lot up on Court Street here. Now, some of those estimates, they've been in there a while, we'd already probably could tweak them, but of course, we'll come back to you when we get to the bids and all that, and come up with the actual project budget. So that was, just very much estimates at this time. Liquor store operations, our manager's doing a good job, strong performance there. So just including our liquor store budget. Some projects he did, he got the beer cave done and very reasonably priced, so very pleased with that. Should save us in a lot of labor of stocking that. The distributors can come and bring the product right in, and our staff doesn't have to be moving that in and out all the time. Save us on workers' comp claims as well, so good safety concerns there. New signage at the downtown store. Refuse fund, we went through these in detail, of course, just the other week here at council, or where we had a work session, I think. But looking here, we want to keep that operating income up there. And as you know, we are running a landfill, the demolition cell. We need to plan for that, the closure of the current cells, opening of new ones. We run the refuse collection business as well. So we go around and gather all the garbage. We dispose of it with Otter Tail County. We run the recycling business as well. So you go here, we are recommending, these are the recommendations that came before you in the utility rate study. Refuse collection going up 3.5%. Refuse disposal fee going up 16%. Yes, I know that's kind of a big number, kind of hard to swallow, but it's because we're seeing increased disposal costs on our expense side. I have 19.75 here. It's actually going to be 19.81%, so even a little bit higher than this is where we're going to land. So I certainly stand behind that we need those increases. There's that demolition debris cell increase that we talked about, moving it up $1. There's just a sample bill. We've showed this to you before, both in September and in our utility rate study. I think this is about a 5.4% increase when you look at the refuse section together. Sewage treatment fund. Here is just a chart of performance and what we're looking at for 2019. We're looking at a 3% increase there, and there's that sample of what those charges if you were a customer that used 6,000 gallons. Water fund, same thing, needing to maintain. It's healthier income here we're looking at, but it's because we don't have quite the cash balances in the water fund as we do in the wastewater treatment. And we're looking at a 10% increase there. So another sizable increase. Remember when we went through the utility rate study, we showed you how we compared to other cities. We are a lime softening plant, so we're actually a little bit towards the lower end of the price compared to other lime softening plants. So good thing to keep in mind is our homeowners in town don't need to have water softeners in their house and be buying that salt because it's all done at the water plant. So very good water here in Fergus Falls. But with that comes the price of taking care of our infrastructure. We have an older plant out there as well. It's in good shape, but we have some improvements to do out there. We have those other big projects we talked about, reservoir, 2 water towers to paint within the next 5 years, and they're sizable expenses, just doing those maintenance kind of expenses. Stormwater is our last enterprise fund, so we're getting there. Looking at moving up 50 cents in here. And then the equipment fund, this is that internal fund. As I kind of stepped back and reflected a little bit, look at how the green bar is ticking down a little bit. We've been doing 2% increases. We're still okay, but if that's going down a little bit, we're probably going to have to tick that up a little bit to make sure we're funding our equipment replacements. We don't want to get behind on our equipment because, of course, we have to have equipment to take care of our infrastructure. So we'll look at that when we are back in 2020 talking about that budget. So we're looking at that same 2%, and then planned equipment purchases of $690,000. So what we're looking for tonight then is action on this budget, adopting this levy that was presented to you in September, and here again tonight. There's the budget figure, and I wanted to point out that does include those utility rate changes. We would be doing all of them in the month of January, except for the sewer fund, which would come in April when we set the rates. So if you have questions, I can certainly take those now, otherwise I'll be quiet and see if there's people from the public that would like to address
Thank you,
us.
Bill. I think what we'll do is we'll allow the public a chance to, and then we'll allow the council to consider those resolutions accepting the levy and the budget.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, Bill, for all your work on this. And this levy and this 2019 levy and the 2019 budget do come as recommendations from the Tax Levy Committee, which consists of Councilmember Darren Appert, City Administrator Andrew Remseth, and myself. So with that, I would like to open it up to opportunity for the public to address the council on any items relating to the budget or the proposed levy for 2019. Please step to the lectern. All right. Last chance. Anyone? All right. With that, I would bring it back to the council, and we will be looking for a resolution to adopt the 2019 levy first.
For that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll
Thank
second
you,
that.
Tom. Discussion.
A question for Bill, but I don't know whether you necessarily will have the answer. That's so. I'll preempt
I'm
it.
betting on Bill.
We'll see.
I kind of got a survey of like 6, I think, different properties, and like you say, there doesn't appear to be any rhyme or reason in kind of like some of the changes. But do you know, I'm going to go to the county meeting as well, so that I can actually ask them some questions, but home values seem to move in different rates across the city. Literally from kind of like one at almost 18%, one at 3%, another one at 18%, another one at like 10% rounded up.
Right.
And it seemed like they were all over the board, which obviously then reflected in the city portion, that kind of went from somebody having a city tax proposed increase to 19%, 5%, kind of 1.25%, and so as you say, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of logic to it.
Right. So I think you and I were on the same wavelength there. I did exactly the same thing. I just picked some properties around town, anywhere ranging from probably $450,000 house down to a $20,000 house. And I do not have an answer for you for that. We can delve into that more with the county assessor probably. I believe that would come through the assessor's office. But certainly he did tell me in general, values across the city are going up, which of course that's always good if you're gonna sell your house, but you don't wanna pay more taxes, so then doesn't make you feel so good when the value goes up if you're.
I mean, I think it was the same. It was like it was kind of all over. And then the other piece on the city taxes. Do you know what the other levies piece is too? I mean, at the bottom it's like.
Is that under the school district?
Under the school district, yeah.
Yeah. So the school district there is somewhat of an error in their number on those statements. So they're going to be addressing that when you go to their meeting next Monday night. So we're actually expecting that school levy to go down, so that your total tax bill as a resident should be less when the actual bills come out than what you're seeing on that statement as of today.
Right.
So, but that's something that couldn't be changed before those tax statements went out, so they'll be addressing that at their meeting next Monday night. So, but that should come down, so that's actually, there's an error in there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Anthony.
I was just gonna, real quickly, reading an email that we got from the school earlier, just so it's
Thank you,
maybe
yeah.
helpful to everybody. The school levy is actually gonna be going up 9.75% instead of 14.7%. They did indicate that their taxes went down 1.8% last year and was up 2% 2 years ago. Student enrollment is responsible for 67% of the growth. As student enrollment increases, then the levy goes up and state aid is reduced. And then expansion of the preschool program is also responsible for 33% of that growth, with doubling the lease space to accommodate an expanded program and adding the daycare out at the Heritage. So that was kind of their rationale for that cost going up.
Yeah, because on the one that a resident came to me it was like 37% on the other levies, the tax increase.
Right. So thank you for bringing that up, and that the good news is on the side of it that we have increasing enrollment, so that's good for the city too, but those numbers will change.
And then maybe you know the answer to this one then. Why did Homestead go down if home value went up?
State law. State law, correct?
What's that, why did what go down?
Homestead.
Why did Homestead go
exemption.
down?
Okay, yeah, that would all be related to state law.
Rod, yeah.
I think Anthony's observations are good, lest it be an exercise in futility. Couldn't the council have a motion to simply request clarification from the county? That as to, so we can explain to the voters why there's a difference, such a large, it would be a simple request that we just ask the assessor and their assessor's team to explain why there's such a range.
Oh, you mean, I see what you're saying.
It's just a clarification.
Sure, we can definitely get that from the assessor and
Yep,
bring
we
that
can
back
get
to.
that out to you.
Let's vote on the, let's vote on the levy, then we'll take that motion and we'll bring that to the assessor. Any other questions on the levy?
One, just quick comment / question for Bill. I just can't ever pass up a chance to get up on my recycling soapbox. And I understand from what Len Taylor told us that only about 30% of the residents are using the recycling bins.
Right.
And that would be one way where residents could have a direct impact on those refuse rates, because the more garbage that we have to send away, the more the city ends up paying for it versus with recycling.
Right.
You know, if we have people that are more actively involved in recycling, then that's money that the city's actually taking in by selling it. So just wanted to get that out there and make sure that everyone's aware of that.
Thank
And
you,
if
Tom.
you recall, when I went through those utility rate discussion, I did, I started out with, I'm thinking our costs will probably go up at least 4% a year on disposal, but I dropped that down to 2% for this year, because let's try to push that recycling. Now, I hope we can do that and get exactly what you're saying, get that usage up, so we pull all that out of the waste stream. You bet.
It's good for everybody.
Right.
Thanks.
All right. Roll call, please.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Tito.
Yes.
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 Fish.
Yes. That resolution is approved. Now, before we go approve consider approving the resolution adopting the budget, Rod, you had a motion asking,
Just a motion to clarify so that we can pass on, ask the county about the range.
maybe we can have Doug Wavani to come and just give us an update on the, at the council meeting.
Kind of on the
his-
process, maybe?
His thought of how.
Because we don't set that, we pass it on as a city, that it makes sense for us to be able to know why we're passing on that difference in,
Certainly.
that Mr. Hicks has brought.
So the motion, second?
So, yep.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Anthony. One last item would be a resolution to adopt the 2019 budget as presented by Bill Salmore. Is there a?
Move.
Thank you, Scott.
Second that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion on that hasn't taken place already? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 That resolution is approved. I don't believe there's any other business to come before the council. So, Lynn, you don't have any announcements, do you? We're good? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.